The relationship between India and Qatar is a story of deep connections and, well, some pretty perplexing contradictions. It's a tale that stretches all the way from the bustling markets of Mumbai to the gleaming skyscrapers of Doha. On one hand, you see a partnership built on really solid foundations. Qatar provides the energy that powers millions of Indian homes and industries. In return, India sends its brightest and most hardworking people to help build Qatar's modern marvels. This is a relationship measured in billions of dollars of trade and the sweat and dreams of nearly 1 million Indians who call Qatar their second home. It's a bond that seems, at least on the surface, to be unbreakable and mutually beneficial. But then, just when you think you understand it, the narrative shifts. Suddenly, there are moments of intense friction and diplomatic strain that send shockwaves through both nations. We've seen this recently in moments that have tested the very limits of this friendship. These are the times when headlines are dominated not by trade deals, but by tension, whispered anxieties, and high-stakes negotiations happening behind closed doors. Long before the discovery of oil and natural gas transformed Qatar into the wealthy nation it is today, its shores were connected to India. This was a connection forged not by diplomats in suits, by merchants on wooden dhows, by pearl divers, and by fishermen. For centuries, the Arabian Sea was not a barrier but a highway of commerce and culture. Indian traders from Gujarat from the Malabar coast would sail to the Gulf, bringing spices, textiles, grains. In return, they brought pearls and dates. These weren't just business transactions, they were exchanges that built familiarity and a shared cultural vocabulary between the people. This historical connection laid a quiet but important foundation for the modern relationship. When Qatar gained independence from British protection in 1971, India was one of the first countries to recognize its sovereignty and establish diplomatic relations. It was a natural step, an official acknowledgement of a bond that had existed for generations. The people-to-people ties were already there. The Indian community, though small then, was present. At the heart of the India-Qatar relationship lies a powerful and honestly undeniable interdependence, built on 3 core pillars: energy, trade, and people. First and foremost, there is energy. India is one of the world's fastest-growing major economies, and its appetite for energy is immense and ever-increasing. Qatar, sitting on the world's 3rd largest natural gas reserves, is a global energy superpower. This creates a perfect symbiotic partnership. For years, Qatar has been India's largest supplier of liquefied natural gas, or LNG. This isn't just a simple trade, it's a strategic necessity for India. The gas from Qatar lights up our cities, powers our factories, and fuels our economy, providing a cleaner alternative to coal and oil. Beyond energy, the trade relationship is robust and diverse. While LNG dominates the numbers, the flow of goods goes both ways. India exports cereals, meat, and vegetables. It also ships engineering goods, textiles, and chemicals. Indian businesses and brands have a significant presence in the Qatari market. Walk through any supermarket in Doha, and you'll find shelves stocked with products from India. This two-way trade, valued at billions of dollars annually, creates a strong economic linkage that benefits both countries. It ensures that their economic fortunes are, to a degree, intertwined, giving both sides a vested interest in maintaining stability. Despite the complexities, the history of India-Qatar relations is filled with moments of strong cooperation and genuine friendship. These high points have been crucial in building trust and showing the partnership's potential. One major milestone was the long-term LNG deal between India's Petronet and Qatar Energy. It wasn't just commercial. It was a strategic masterstroke that secured India's energy future for decades. When global energy markets were volatile, Qatar proved a reliable, steadfast partner ensuring uninterrupted gas supply. That reliability became the cornerstone of the energy partnership and a major source of goodwill. High-level diplomatic visits are another big positive. Visits by Indian prime ministers to Doha, visits by the Qatari emir to New Delhi. These trips often led to new agreements and reaffirmed shared goals. They also pushed cooperation beyond energy into defense security investment. Agreements on joint counterterrorism efforts and maritime security showed willingness to tackle shared threats. These engagements send a powerful signal to bureaucracies and to business communities in both countries. Support for the Indian community in Qatar also stands out. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Qatar ensured healthcare for all residents, including the large Indian expatriate population. The Qatar Cares initiative was widely appreciated in India. When Qatar faced the 2017 blockade, India played a careful, balanced role. India did not take sides and worked to keep supply chains open, food, other essentials, many originating from India. That was a quiet but significant gesture. Cultural and educational ties remain a bright spot. Numerous Indian schools in Qatar follow the Indian curriculum, catering to the diaspora's educational needs and serving as vibrant cultural hubs. Indian institutions and cultural centers promote Indian culture and foster goodwill. Qatari leaders often praise the Indian community for peaceful nature, hard work, positive contribution to Qatari society. These mutual moments of respect and cultural appreciation are the soft power glue holding the relationship through thick and thin. The relationship, for all its strengths, has not been immune to serious challenges. In recent years, we have seen storm clouds gather, creating significant diplomatic turbulence. The most prominent and distressing example was the case of the 8 former Indian Navy personnel who were arrested in Qatar in August 2022 on charges of espionage. This incident sent shockwaves through India. The men, who were working for a private company, were initially handed a death sentence by a Qatari court, a verdict that caused immense public outrage and put the Indian government under tremendous pressure. The lack of transparency from the Qatari side, with the specific charges never being made public, created a fog of confusion and anxiety. This case became a major diplomatic test for New Delhi. For months, it was a story of frantic, behind-the-scenes negotiations, consular access battles, legal appeals. The situation was incredibly delicate. India had to balance the need to publicly pressure Qatar for the release of its citizens with the risk of jeopardizing the broader relationship, which involves the country's energy security and the welfare of nearly 1 million other Indians. The initial harsh sentence was seen by many in India as disproportionate and a reflection of a hardening stance from Doha. It was a stark reminder that despite deep economic ties, the legal and political systems of the two countries are vastly different. Thankfully, through sustained and quiet diplomatic efforts, culminating in a visit by the Indian Prime Minister himself, the death sentences were first commuted and eventually the 8 men were released and returned to India in February 2024. While the final outcome was a huge diplomatic victory for India, the episode left deep scars. It exposed the vulnerabilities in the relationship and highlighted the precarious position of Indian nationals abroad. The incident forced a difficult conversation in India about the risks involved in its deep engagement with a country where the rule of law can be opaque and subject to the whims of the state. So, why is this relationship so full of contradictions? Why does it swing between close partnership and tense standoffs? The primary reason is the fundamental difference in the political systems and worldviews of the two nations. India is the world's largest democracy, noisy, pluralistic, secular, free press, independent judiciary. Qatar is an absolute monarchy, conservative Islamic state, power concentrated in the emir and the ruling family. This difference shapes approaches to law, justice, human rights, freedom of expression. What's normal political discourse in India can be a serious crime in Qatar. That divergence is the core confusion. On one level, pragmatic transactional economics, supply, demand, mutual benefit. India needs Qatar's gas, Qatar needs India's market, Qatar needs India's workforce. This is the simple, easy-to-understand part. But on another level, political and ideological ties are far more complex. Qatar engages a wide spectrum of actors. Some make India deeply uncomfortable. That creates strategic dissonance, economic partner actions versus security interests. The case of the 8 Navy veterans is a perfect illustration of this contradiction. Economic logic said, don't alienate India. Yet internal security and judicial logic led to death sentences, risking the relationship. It was a clash of two different systems. For India, the priority was the lives of its citizens and due process. For Qatar, the priority was asserting sovereignty and sending a national security message. Asymmetry of human ties complicates things. Nearly 1 million Indians live and work in Qatar. Few Qataris in India. Stakes are much higher for India. A population the size of a small Indian city depends on this relationship. That gives Qatar leverage. So India treads carefully. Quiet diplomacy, not public confrontation. The balancing act between protecting interests and people makes the relationship delicate and complicated. Looking ahead to the future, the challenge for both India and Qatar is to build a more resilient and predictable relationship. The recent crises have served as a wake-up call, demonstrating that the strong economic foundation alone is not enough to weather every storm. The first step towards a better future is to institutionalize the dialogue between the two countries. This means going beyond high-level visits and establishing regular structured talks at various levels: foreign ministers, defense ministers, national security advisors. A hotline for emergencies could be a simple but effective tool. Secondly, there is a need to diversify the relationship beyond the traditional pillars of energy labor. Both countries have already started moving in this direction, but the effort needs to be accelerated. For instance, Qatar has a massive sovereign wealth fund, the Qatar Investment Authority, that is always looking for stable, long-term investment opportunities. India, with its booming infrastructure, technology, renewable energy sectors, is an ideal destination for these funds. Encouraging more Qatari investment in India would deepen the economic ties and give Qatar a greater stake in India's success, creating a more balanced interdependence.